President Kashim Shettima has arrived Kaduna State to flag off the resettlement scheme for victims of a military drone attack at Tudun Biri Village in Igabi Local Government area. Governor Uba Sani and other senior government officials were at the Kaduna International Airport to receive the Vice President. The Vice President of the DG National Emergency Management Agency and the Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly also welcomed the Vice President. He will perform the groundbreaking for the construction of residential houses for victims of the air bombing, which killed more than 100 persons, mostly children.
This resettlement scheme is more than just bricks and mortar. It is a symbol of our collective will to heal as a nation that has endured too much. It is an opportunity for each of us to come together and rebuild. It is a call to action. It is an appeal to come together in solidarity against the common threats that undermine our collective well-being. Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is invested in building peace and stability in each part of this great country.
This is clear demonstration of Mr. President's commitment to wiping out the tears of Tudun Biri people and indeed poor, vulnerable and unserved in our country. Mr. President feels the pains of the internally displaced person and all those affected by conflicts in our country. He recognized the fact that decent accommodation and essential infrastructure are critical to the preservation of human dignity.
Our TVC News senior reporter Lupe Assom is joining me on the news at 7 for more on this development. Lupe, thanks so much for joining us. What more do we know about the Vice President's visit to Kaduna?
Well, good evening. Well, the Vice President's visit was to mark the groundbreaking of the resettlement scheme for persons impacted with conflicts. And according to the Vice President, this is just the pilot phase. This program or this scheme is going to be replicated in other states such as Benue, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Niger. That's a total of 7 states, including Kaduna State. So it marks a shift in government's approach to internal displacement and conflict resolution, where it also demonstrates President Tinubu's commitment to not just temporary relief, but long-term rehabilitation and reintegration of affected communities. That's communities that have been affected by conflicts. You could recall that Tudun Biri on the 3rd of December 2023 was bombed in error by the Nigerian army. And of course, the Vice President was on ground to assess the situation and even visit the victims who were those who survived and were receiving treatment at the medical facility in Kaduna. And he promised that the federal government was going to kickstart its resettlement initiative right here in Kaduna. So his coming was in fulfillment of that promise by the federal government. And they said it's just going to be a pilot phase. It's just the start of a very, very long process of reintegrating these communities, giving them hope. Beyond building their walls, it's meant to renew their trust in the government. And they promise that this initiative is going to be replicated in other states.
Recall that the UN and international communities or international organizations have actually called on the Nigerian military to be very, very careful when it comes to handling issues against insurgency, especially which leads to humanitarian crisis. But most importantly, how are the people of Tudun Biri Village in the Igabi Local Government, reacting to the Vice President visit and the planned action?
Well, of course, I spoke to a couple of them. They are filled with excitement. The traditional leader, he was very excited. They are full of thanks to the President and the Vice President for fulfilling their promise. Of course, it is one thing to promise and it's another thing to deliver. And the presidency not only promised, but they came on board today. They were right there in that village where it seems it's quite hostile, where it seems this village that seems like a frontline community. The Vice President was right there to kickstart this program. And if you go to Tudun Biri now, you can see that buildings are popping up. The Kaduna State Skill Acquisition Center is also coming up. You can see that they have water sources now. Their worship center has been rebuilt, and many more buildings and constructions are coming up. So the community is very, very thankful to the President, thankful to the Governor of Kaduna State for fulfilling their promise. And the governor also said over 200 and something million naira has been distributed to them. That's talking funds that were pledged, people who promised and actually donated money for some of these victims. The governor said that amount has been disbursed to some of these victims, and he also promised that many more interventions are going to send more interventions to that community.
TVC News senior reporter Lupi Asom, thank you.